Okay. So now, again, in this time of COVID-19 and as a coach trainer, is there anything that you would like to say? How are you doing? Oh, Adria, looks like you're trying to talk, but you're on mute. And your mute button is in the bottom left corner. I'll unmute you for you. It's locked. I am not able to unmute you.
I believe you could, Ali, if you press on Adria's
I see her.
vision.
Oh, there.
Okay.
There, and it wasn't working. So, Adria,
Yeah.
you are now. We can hear you.
I would just like to say that coaches that I'm in touch with in this community that I'm in, and I'm not in touch with all of them, and the ones that I'm in touch with virtually that are other places, I think in all they're handling this pretty well. Like they're fairly stable, they're not hysterical, you know what I mean? They're just calmly doing what they have to do, and that's really good to see.
And how are the coach trainers doing?
I think they're doing pretty well also. The ones, you know, I'm talking about a very small sample, but, but Norma's on the call here. I don't know what you have to say, but I think that at Adler here in Toronto, we're really
good to hear.
Yeah,
thank you, Adria. And this is Vikram here. I'm co-hosting this call with Hallie today. And the intention of this call really is for all of us to come together and create a shared understanding of what's happening as coach trainers and as coaches. And yes, we are all grateful that we are well and we can all be part of this call today. So really welcoming everybody in as well.
Ali, I can offer something. This is Charity.
That would be great. Hello.
Hi. Good to see everybody. So I run a program through the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we are currently being told that we have to move every face-to-face offering online. So we are pivoting to do that. We are challenged by the fact, though, that simultaneously they are stripping us of resources, because all resources for instructional design, for tech support, things normally we would get are being diverted to the credit side of campus, which are the bachelor degree students, the graduate students in master's and PhD programs. So I'm having to get really creative. So I was hoping to maybe hear from other people best practice for doing online programming. I've been bringing myself up to speed as quickly as I can in that effort, but also just wondering, just curious to hear from others on their experiences as well regarding what's happening out there. Thank you.
Great. I'm sure we'll have some resources on the call. So thanks for being here. And yeah, I think your position is not unlike many that I've heard. So including my school that quickly moved from an in-person program to a virtual one. So, and I think you reflect the thoughts of many when you say you're doing fine, doing well, as long as you don't have to quickly tell anyone what day it is. So true. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Hi, Silvana, go ahead.
Hi. We in Brazil, we had already moved from the in-presence training course to a virtual one, because we have a challenge with how big the country is. So we had already begun to move, to migrate towards the online training course. So we are okay with that. The challenge here is to continue to think about the future, because all the coaches right now and all the people that want to become better coaches or to have some type of credential they are currently helping each other and building things, offering things online that are for free because we are all in the same boat. So what's challenging right now is to think about how to create a new cohort of training when you have to pay for the training while everyone is offering things for free. We also do, and people are not able to think that far in the future, so they don't want to uh, to begin to have a training or to pay for a training when they don't know what the future will be like. So it's very, very difficult to have new students for new cohorts. The ones that were already in training, they're continuing normally. But for gathering a new cohort, it's being challenging.
Got it. Thank you. I think I look forward to having some discussion about that as well as how to market in these times, I think is what I heard. So probably a simplification of what you said, but yeah. Is there anybody else who would like to put some initial thoughts out there about how you're doing, how your colleagues are doing in these times, students? What are you hearing?
Well, I could go there, Hallie. I was on a Zoom call, an online call in India, just half an hour back, and we got Zoom bombed. And so I had to request my faculty to abort the call. And it was impersonating an ID that we all knew, and all the security protocols were taken care. So while we are moving online, I think it's also going to be important to start looking at platforms other than Zoom, simply for data security and privacy. And that's going to be one big challenge that all of us will have. Currently, we're exploring Microsoft Teams and Lifesize as alternative options. The challenge with any of these online platforms is they're more secure, but they don't have breakout rooms. And that's going to be a challenge. So there have to be alternative ways of looking at it. But what we've been hearing in media about Zoom bombing, it's real, it's true. It's certainly at our doorstep. So that's a big challenge that we are facing right now.
Thank you. Yeah. So,
well, this is Melissa. I just wanted to, at the same time that there's a, yeah, we're doing the same thing. We had to redesign on the fly because we had an in-person program and everyone left in the middle of the week, and so all of a sudden we were online. And we're gearing up for a new cohort. So more than marketing, it's sort of selling. How do you close the deal? Because I'm getting 5-10 emails a day of all the support that there is out there, including training and so on. But on a happy note, I'm really delighted that the conference in June is going to be virtual. It enabled, we're taking our registrations and we've got 5 faculty who are attending. And so that just gets me really excited that it's not just up to me and Sharifa to go back and try and get people to watch videos and try and communicate it all, that more people can really participate in it. So I'm really grateful for the effort that the conference committee is doing in order to make it so that we can participate and have others participate. So thank you.
So happy to know this, Melissa. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, Cindy. Go ahead. You need to unmute and bottom left. There you go.
No, I run these meetings. I just was spacing out. Anyway, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that the conference will be virtual. I have to be honest, I hadn't been paying attention to that aspect. So I now would love to get to go. Is there now a different fee structure?
Yes.
I assume there's an email that I can check. I don't want to take it.
Well, you can go to the website and all the information is there as well.
Great.
And in the spirit of trying to increase accessibility in these times and generally, we would love for people from all over the world to attend. Yeah, the fee is different now too. So it's $200 or $350 if you would like to contribute some to our scholarship fund as well. So that price point is quite different then, and you don't have to travel. So
And the time zones, and we're trying to include as many time zones as possible.
yeah,
So
so
it's a maximum 4 hours online a day,
or
not more
5,
than that.
and we stretched it, so it's over 5 days instead of 3, and brought in earlier and later so that different time zones and different parts of the world can participate. Good point, Vikram, and thank you. I'm glad that some people will be able to attend, more people. So Vikram, thank you for summarizing. So far we've got discussions about moving online and marketing. How do you charge for your program? How do you market your program? And I think there was a third one about alternatives to Zoom, increased security for virtual programming. Anything anyone else wants to say or add or put into the space before we dive into some of these topics?
Ali, yeah, this is Sharon in U.S. Leadership that Works in the U.S. And in our New York, we had 2 New York cohorts, one that started in March, end of March, and another due to start in June. And the June one wasn't enrolling, and probably because of the pandemic. But the March one doubled enrollment in the last 2 weeks. So it was kind of interesting. We also had to scramble to put that in an online format, and thankfully we had Zoom and didn't get bombed that weekend. But it was all day, Saturday and Sunday, and it worked out really well. The group really seems to appreciate coming together at this time. So I think because some people had more time available and had already allocated the resources or happened to still have income coming in, surprisingly, the enrollment doubled. But the other one, similarly to other schools where there is uncertainty about what's ahead, didn't enroll and we had to cancel it.
So that's June, like in a month or 2.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can share also that in our school, which the leaders of our school would say and have said that, I mean, the school has been around for 20 years through the downturn in 2008, through 9/11, through the wars, and have always seen a level steady. So I just put that out there for people in terms of encouragement that we too started a program in March and our enrollment is fine. And I think that while there are some people who are going to be scared right now, and rightfully so, about money, I think there are also some people who are making some decisions about their careers and seeing that an online career might be a good idea. And so they seem to be balancing each other. And so our enrollment has not noticed a significant drop off. So for programs that started in February and March.
So Aileen, thanks Hallie. Aileen has written, Aileen, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly here. This is Vikram. You've written a great point saying, how do we keep the heartbeat going? And do you want to speak a little more to that? But what are some of the challenges, the psychological or the sociological challenges that you were experiencing? I believe, Sharon, you also spoke briefly to the need for everybody to connect and be committed, and would be very curious to know what's happening to the people who are enrolling. What are they needing apart from the technology stuff? So, Aileen, if you want to take the floor, I would love to hear more from you. And glad that you're here today on the call.
I'm not sure
who.
Thank you. Okay, good.
Hi.
You know who.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. It's evening my time. It's actually 6 o'clock. in Africa.
Welcome.
Yeah, I was so looking forward to this call just to get to hear what my fellow colleagues are going through in this space of COVID and having to do things that we've not done before. I think the challenge you're having is that we've always ran trainings face-to-face, and by the time the lockdown was coming, we just have sort of a partial lockdown, so we can't have meetings, social distancing and all that. And we had like 4 programs that are about to start, but we had to put them on hold. Actually, just before this call, I had a call with a new program that we are launching in Rwanda, another African country, for those people who may not know. And so we were exploring how does that look like. And one of the concerns they were raising over the Zoom was, so are we going to get the same quality? You know, like, are we going to lose value now that you're not going to be coming here in person? And even somebody asked, are we going to pay less? Because then the notion or the perception is that the value is not going to be the same as what it should have been if you are here in person to train us. And that's from what people are asking. But I think from my angle, I think I'm a very, I was saying I need to enroll a coach to help me deal with what are the mental and psychological challenges I'm having as a person, just to how do I want to put this, to adopt or to embrace the new way of doing things. And one of my fears as a trainer, I'm just feeling like there is that intangible thing that I give. There is that intangible experience that is there when I'm seeing the client or the trainee face to face, that I'm not sure I'm not losing what I'm now calling here heartbeat of the program. And it would be nice to hear what those people who are in the same space of transitioning are experiencing. I hope it makes sense.
It does. And that's part of the challenge that many of us are facing. We just had a hat day today in the call that got bombed, where everybody came with their power hats, and we were playing together for the first 30 minutes just together. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but you know, I think at least in our part of the world where there's a lot of stress around this, it's calling for a lot more play and creativity. And it's a question that you're asking, and maybe there are others here who would like to name some of this. Thank you for this, though.
I'd like to echo what everyone is saying, and we've had to move all of our courses, psychology and coaching, on Zoom, and keep fingers crossed we've not had any Zoom bombing. And actually the transition has gone fairly smoothly. You know, we've been using breakout rooms, doing role plays where, you know, participants on the call black out their screen so that, you know, you don't see that, you only see the faces of the 2 people doing the role plays. Shortening, you know, the hours on Zoom, increasing lunch hours, you know, extending. So if it's a 2-day course, it becomes a 3-day. And it seems to have gone really well so far. I know Zoom is not the greatest platform, and we need to be looking at other things. I also do want to say that there's a chart out that I recently received, and I'm happy to forward it to you, Hallie, looking at the 4 phases of COVID, and the great need right now for mental health supports, but also for those who are coaches, psychotherapists, psychologists, in terms of burnout and working with, you know, professionals who are burning out in the caregiving fields. So I'll share that with you, Hallie, and you can pass it along to others. But there is definitely a need right now for those of us who do this sort of work.
Thanks for those ideas.
Thank you, Dayton.
If I may, so this is my first time on this call, so
hello,
it's
welcome.
nice to
welcome.
Thank you. This is, you know, beautiful to see people from all around the world. And so I'm a faculty at CTI, and to what was just brought to our attention, I find very useful. I don't know if you've seen this visual.
I've seen that. Begum, is that the one you're talking about? Different. Okay, cool.
Okay, so this, I forget the name. I was about to find the name of the author of this visual, which doesn't appear, unfortunately, on, this is being shared very much on LinkedIn, but it's a beautiful tool to be coaching people around the situation. So who is it? The main question is, who is it I want to be in the midst of COVID? So if I don't know, I could share this, and or you can find me on LinkedIn and you'll see that I've been, or I may want, I could share the name of the author. So that's been, that's a tool that's I find very useful. And a couple of days ago, the same author created a new vision, you know, that is a little bit, has some images that can really help out as well. So if that's
that would be great.
If you want to share those visuals, I can make sure the people on the call get them if you're willing to share.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
I'll put my email address in the chat.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I can send it to you. I've been sharing quite a bit.
Yeah, and I do know somebody who's looking for the author of that first one. So if you...
Yes, I do have the name. I'll look in my emails. And just so you know, on our end at CTI, there's a lot of initiatives going around in terms of, so the co-presidents of CTI are putting forward some brilliant conversations with the general public and for coactive coaches. And there's a lot of initiatives being done by faculty around the world to provide some kind of support both to the public and coaches as well. So I see a lot of empowering moments and taking risks and providing to help out what is needed in the world right now. So we're being very active on our end.
Thank you.
And excited. It feels, you know, this is a great opportunity for coaches to rise to the occasion and to provide for those who are in need and struggling. I myself am focusing very much on government, health sector, food distribution as well. So aiming to support in terms of coaching services in those areas. Because these are the ones that are, you know, the primary important services that we need, you know, in our community. So
thank you so much. That also brings us to the question of what would the membership need from ACTO right now? What's really important? And need not be only the ACTO board, but there can be many of us who can co-create and contribute. So one specific need that I'm hearing is certainly around how do you do better online training? How do you keep the heartbeat going? And there seems to be a shared set of resources that all of us can bring in. But what else might be important for us right now? Begum made a great point about the burnout that eventually many of us will feel, or some of the mental health challenges that are going to show up. I'm already seeing some of that appearing in India, in Asia, and given that there isn't too much recognition of mental health challenges, it's often going to go unnamed. So there is a need to even name that and help people acknowledge and own that right now. So very curious to know, both from the human process aspect and from a technology aspect, what would be meaningful for us as a community.
I think Vikram and everyone, the whole notion of working with people with mental health issues doesn't seem to fall in the realm of coaching, and I think we can claim that space very much so. And how do we do?
And could you say a little more on that? How could that claim? What would that claiming look like? Because I've had some fierce opposition coming in India saying that's not your space. Don't even go there.
Right. So I know personally, you know, it's about mental health and well-being, and that's the space that I work in. And it does not mean that I don't work with people who have mental health challenges. And so how can we language it in such a way that we are claiming that space? And I think this is a collective, you know, conversation.
Great. So maybe that's a dialogue we could open, actually. and see what emerges.
Or to see what support coaches would provide for somebody, an individual, in terms of mental health and well-being. Because I don't think it just means, to me, mental well-being doesn't mean something that I necessarily need a counselor for, or somebody who can diagnose or give me medication. So very much so, I think that's something that we're in that space already. And to let people know, Melissa, dialogue about how to support trauma can be worked with for mental well-being. Trauma that we can, yeah, I think is what you're saying, Melissa. Where are you? There you are. Yeah, so to let people know what we do already and how a coach might support them right now might be really valuable. I know there's events, International Coaching Week is coming up, and there's events planned. Various chapters are offering different things, and I think that might be a great way for the chapters to get the word out about how a coach might support them people right now.
Also in the chat, there are 3 specific themes that Julian, Luana, and Steve have brought in, and I would really invite you to share more here in the space as well. I think it might be meaningful for quite a few of us if you feel called to. Each of it's a different point, really, but important.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Thank you.
Great. Hi.
Sorry, I'm having a bite of breakfast here at 11:30, so I didn't want
That's
to
all good.
be chewing. Yeah, so my question is around helping folks to identify those that are new to online training, because there are some, right? Even if they've had some incorporated into their programming, it was not necessarily the core of how they were delivering their content. So I think it would be helpful for ACTO to take a look at first, maybe a survey to say, what are some of the mindset, skill set gaps, or just identified needs that we may be able to help you address as we operate in this new normal. And based on that, then to look at, because of the work that we do and the backdrop that we have, how do we pinpoint a few core, common, and consistent themes and say, here's where ACTO will support coach training as it relates to mindset and skill set shifts needed during this time. But again, I think it starts with nothing really extensive, but a survey, and then pinpointing a few places where we'll support and build some core resources around.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Writing it down. Please don't think I'm texting someone.
No worries.
I think there's also some people on the call. I don't want to interrupt Steve or whoever.
Julian.
I think there's some people on the call who probably want, if you have them, some concrete ideas of what you're doing and what they can do during this time, and while they're moving from live to virtual, what's working, what's not working. I think some people came to hear that. So if you have them, please put them out there for people to hear.
Maybe I can tell you something that I know that doesn't work, at least for here, for a Brazilian context. You have to think, when you go from in presence training to virtual training, you have to think about the times, the quantity of time that a person can endure in front of a camera. And you have to think about different modules, different times, as you all thought about that while you were transforming your conference to a virtual conference. There are time tables that you have to see, but there is also a need for a break, and it's not only 5 minutes break. You have to have the longest that I can endure I myself can endure in front of in a Zoom room like this is 2 hours with a stretching and with 5 minutes to rest from 1 hour to the other. Longer than that, you lose your attention span, and it's not because you cannot be focused more time than that. It's like you are right now inside of a home, inside of a house, with maybe other people that need you, and maybe other stuff you have to prepare, or if there's not people, sometimes there's an animal who needs you. So you begin to move out from the focus of the session. So one of the things that I think works is not to go longer than 2 hours and have a 5-minute break in the middle. That's a concrete thing that I think it's working. And I wanted to tell you about the heart, or the feeling that you are away from the student because you are not in the same room. The heart of the people, when the environment is good, when you can share your stories, when there's room for everyone to speak. So those are things that you have to plan in your class, to give everyone space to participate. When everyone is participating, when everyone is getting to share what they are facing or what they think, the heart is in the room. It's not different than what's happening in presence, because if they feel they can share, they have space and they are heard, they share with an open heart, and they begin being as warm as they would be inside of the classroom. I have a personal experience in that. When I was I am a mentor coach. When I got trained, I entered an international cohort. And so one of the trainers was in the United States and the other one was in Netherlands. And I was in Brazil, and there was one colleague of mine who was in Hungary, and the other one was in the United States, and the third one was in Panama. So we got together and we did a thing that was so warm, so together, really, that 2 years from the day that we ended the cohort, we are still gathering all month to share experiences. So the energy in the room, it's depending on the space that you give to the students, and on your openness to speak about what's happening. That's my idea.
I've been
doing some online teaching at the Professional School of Psychology, and we were finding the same things. 2 hours really was about the longest time limit we could go. And we had people meeting internationally with us, so we would have sometimes sessions at different times to accommodate people in one part of the world who didn't want to get up early in the morning for a class. So we might have the same session, but twice during the week. And we found that, the class numbers were small, but we also found out was that students liked to work together on projects. So when I was teaching a course, I would have a project and I would say, you can make this a group effort, you can do this individually, and some of them would get together, form their own groups, and do the assignments together and then present together. And that was good, I think, for keeping the bonding going and helping them with their study buddies and keeping their interests up, keeping them participating in a way that was comfortable for them as well.
Yeah, so smaller group projects.
Yeah, right.
Great idea. Thank you.
I'm just in the process of putting my team coaching course, me and Brian here in Toronto, online. Fortunately, when I started out with this course, 2001, I think, I did put it online. And the things we learned are very similar. So I'll build on what Kathleen said, and I can't remember who the other person was, but anyway.
Sylvinia.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Sorry. What we found was really important is to connect people. So I think people in this time are all running back and forth. Well, we're not, but you know, some people are. Somehow that you need to make sure they can make a good connection right at the beginning. So taking time, and we're doing it again. We're just going to have the first class just to be about connection. Just have people sharing things and have some breakouts and have them coming back and coming up with ideas together that we can input into the course. So that was the first thing. The second thing we found is what I think Kathleen was just saying, that giving them things to do in between the classes. So we're going to do 3-hour classes also, and we're going to do them in the evening. So this time, which is a new thing. We've never done that before. But basically what we're doing is we're going through and we're putting in a lot more exercises than we had. I mean, nobody wants to listen to a talking head. So it's about making it a coaching process with the people, treating them like they're a team that's being coached, and creating ways for them to give input into what's going on that we as the instructors then build on. And in the past, I found that worked very well. And it does, I don't think you can just take a course and plunk it online straight away. There has to be some changes. So our changes are that. We're looking for different kind of exercises they can do, things they can do together. They can present into the call. They can get together off the call, you know, so that they bond. Because I think people stay in a cohort, and I heard somebody say that too. If they feel like they're part of a whole, and they feel like it was, I think it was you, Sylvina, you said that if they feel that they're together, actually, I think that's a good way to start any kind of a coaching course myself, but everybody doesn't agree with that. Anyway, those are some of the things we did, and it worked really well. So I'm excited actually about the opportunity to do this now. The other thing in terms of technology, I don't know how much bandwidth it needs for Zoom, but that's another concern. How many students actually have a computer that they can sit at for 5 or 6 or 7 hours a day? I don't think everybody has that. So you have to check in with how you're going to manage that part right at the beginning. That's all.
Can I
Amen.
jump in? Hi.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So I just want to add just a kind of positive note on this. I know most of you, of course, know Jody Sleeper Triplett, who was my original coach trainer, gosh, almost 15 years ago. And back in the day, we didn't have video, but we only had phone. And on the positive note, once you got after that first session, the people that I trained with these many years ago are still some of my closest friends and colleagues from all over the country and the world. So it is the positive that you can also get with this. You're using a different media, just like we use different senses as we're learning and growing. So I've been doing coach training now for 5 years, and I've only never done it online virtually through Zoom, by the way. And yes, I am aware of the Zoom bombing. Fortunately, I have not had that issue, and historically, it's been a good platform. And the way I've always done it is it's always been a 2-hour class. I've always had them each have a coaching buddy that they met with privately, virtually during the week. I always shared everyone's email right at the beginning, And I encourage them, please keep yourself off mute as much as you can. If the dog barks, I'd rather be a little tolerable of that. Because one of the biggest challenges is people don't feel as free to be spontaneous and jump in, right? People are getting more comfortable with it, but I would rather deal with sometimes a little background noise so that people feel like they can be more spontaneous. So I offer that to you as well. And I have found that some of the people that I have trained, just like I did, have become close with the people that they trained, and they're in different parts of the country. And the last thing I'll say about the advantage of that is I know that we all need to be so mindful of cultural differences, language differences, economic differences. This opens you up to having people of a much more diverse population that are in your training classes. So just wanted to highlight a few of the positives of this.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cindy, for that. You actually reminded me that we used to use Maestro Conference quite well before Zoom, and Maestro Conference does have the breakout groups, and those breakout groups actually have some advantages over Zoom because you can speak to the whole group. You know, Zoom is nice because you get to see everybody, but that is something we could, you know, we could go back to if the Zoom bombing gets to be a problem. And because we had to put our training online so quickly, I mean, we had less than 2 weeks and we didn't have a chance to really think about how to shorten the day. We did do 7.5-hour days, and we were really worried about that, both in terms of our ability to stay focused and also the students' ability to stay focused. But surprisingly, because we did a similar thing, Cindy, to what you're talking about, by using breakout groups a lot and early, just for small group check-ins. How are they feeling? What are they hoping for the class? The technical assistants kept making sure that they would be paired with different people each time. So they were getting, that was launching the program. They got to meet classmates. We also had them do some sharing ahead of time in our learning management system where they have the discussion group. And so that helped connect them. So I think having ways to connect, I'm also taking away that we can have them go offline and do some work together, which is what some of my colleagues did who were also training online that weekend unexpectedly. So we were surprised. The feedback was really overwhelmingly positive, even though people said that, you know, the long day on Zoom was more challenging. They were also more alive and excited than they expected that they would be. And surprisingly, my co-leader and I were not drained at the end of the day either, which we had feared that our energy would tank. So, you know, it's not optimal. I participated in a course last weekend that was supposed to run 16 hours over the 2 days. And I actually had to bail after the 3rd hour because it was all talking, you know, and I just couldn't stay focused hearing 2 people talk for that long, knowing that I had, you know, another 6 hours ahead. So.
Yeah. Can I just add one more thing that I always did, which is don't forget you can ask your whole group, all right, everybody, let's stand up. Let's all stretch. Let's all move. You know, we forget that. We get so sedentary. So there you go. Exactly. Get up and stretch and move. And it's an opportunity to teach your mentees, or however you want to call it, things that you want them to model and do as they are coaching as well. So use what you know.
That's a great point, Cindy. I believe, Julian, you were beginning to share. You'd unmuted your mic.
Yes, thanks. So I agree with a lot of what's been said. 7 hours in front of a camera sounds like pure hell to me. I've been in front of Zoom since 8:30 this morning, and I'm already going kind of nuts. But you're right. You can take a break and stretch or whatever you need to do. I guess what I want to share from my experience is I've only been training coaches for a year and a bit now. I teach just 2 courses, continuing education courses. They were designed specifically to be online. They're small group, 8 people max. Everyone gets readings in advance. It's quite a kind of heady, idea-driven course in contrast to a lot of coach training or education. And in order to create community and connection, everyone has to submit a summary of the reading before the class, and then that gets distributed to everyone else. So everyone's work throughout the whole program, including their final integration paper, is transparent to everyone else. So everyone knows how everyone else is experiencing the readings, experiencing the class, and everything else. I agree that having people not on mute is essential. And you can do that with just 8 people. Sometimes I've run this course and it's, I've used breakout rooms. In the most recent iteration, people requested not to use breakout rooms and just to keep us all in the class. I think 8 people is the absolute maximum you could do that with. I think I'd rather do 2 sections of 8 people than 1 section of 16 people, even if it takes more time for me, because I think as soon as you have more than 8 people in an online class, the potential for disengagement increases. And having everyone not on mute is just a way of getting spontaneous conversation that you can't get otherwise. There are certain challenges. I had somebody in the last group who was one of those guys who says, well, if nobody else is going to speak, then I'm going to speak. And so he was speaking a lot. And I didn't want to create this kind of ganging up on him mentality, but it got resolved, and it got resolved happily for everyone. I realize I'm being a bit kind of all over the place. But I guess I have a certain suspicion about, just like I think Adria was saying, that you can take a course developed offline and just plunk it online with the same dynamics. I think it has to be a fundamentally different orientation. Time zones are a big thing in the last, and time zones in interesting ways. So even if somebody signs up across time zones, the implications of that are not always clear. So in the last cohort that I ran, I had somebody in Australia who was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I thought was crazy, but she wanted to do it. Somebody in India for whom it was 10:30 at night or 11 o'clock at night, some people in Europe and some people in North America. But I got an email 4 weeks into the program from somebody in North America, which is my time zone, saying, some people seem to be kind of low energy on the call. And I had to say, well, it's 10 o'clock at night. And even if you're not experiencing yourself as low energy, other people may experience you as low. And my family lives in England. And so I'm often calling, and that where you are in your day makes a huge difference to how you show up. And so that's something that I think people don't always consider, but makes a big difference to how much energy you bring, and how much, it's not even energy, it's kind of a strange sort of dynamic that comes in relation to time zone. Anyway, that's all I think I have to share for now.
Thank you. Those are great suggestions and ideas. If I can just pivot everyone for a moment to the topic of marketing. I think that's something that a number of people have talked about. Lots of ideas. And what do you say about marketing your program? That maybe it used to be live or partially live, and now it's 100% virtual. Or anything you want to say about marketing right now.
One of the things that we're doing, this is Melissa, one of the things that we're looking at, we're finishing up our typically live, now online course, and then we'll have a new cohort starting in the fall, is that we're looking at this maybe as a pause. There's sort of like for those of us who live in New York State, there's a New York pause going on right now. And so we're trying to not make promises about what the future is going to look like, because we have just no idea. So right now we're looking at, okay, so yeah, maybe we'll go back to being remote, or excuse me, being in person or some hybrid program. But for now, we're going to pause and be emergent with what is going on in our world. And that might change again in 6 months or in a week. So we're not we're not saying, okay, now everything that's in person is now going to be online. It's that there's a time out of time spot in here that we're filling with programming, and we'll keep evaluating. And that sort of sticks with our philosophy around emergence about what's in the field.
Thank you. Cindy would love to hear suggestions on where to most effectively market worldwide.
Yeah.
One place I'll offer is more of an audience, not necessarily a place, I guess, would be managers, because managers are having to lead in a way that many of them have not had to lead other than once in a while before. And now they're having to manage remote teams, and it's requiring a level of coaching. And in fact, quite honestly, that's one of the pieces that we're working on as a core bit of our business right now, is helping leaders coach using business skills. So yes, coaches themselves, bringing them into organizations, and helping internal coaching programs as well upskill their leaders. So that may be a segment where it may be a little different. But again, they're definitely looking for some help. Organizations are trying to figure it out because their leaders are tasked to do something that they've done live for years, but they're struggling right now to manage an entire virtual team.
And I'll wear my HR hat here to build on what you just said. There may be a tendency to be more micro-managing rather than macro. So what you're saying in terms of there may be a role or an opportunity for us to share our learnings or skills in terms of coaching and train them in that, so that they can be more leveraging and empowering their teams and members rather than directing them and controlling. Yeah.
Right. So when you look at engaging an organization to say, let our coach training school or facilitators help your leaders help their people during this time. Absolutely.
Luana, something else that that made me think of, thanks for sharing that, is that there seems to be increased interest in shorter courses at Leadership That Works. And I think probably because of some of the reasons you're talking about. Some people have more time, but then some people are now in situations where they're needing more coaching skills, and having the shorter, 2-month training, 1-month training, getting some core foundational coaching skills seems to be helpful.
I would add to, sorry, who's talking?
No, go ahead, Ali. I think Saima made a very important point. So I was going to invite Saima also to share a little more, but after you had.
Okay, I just want to, I sort of alluded to this earlier, but I think one good place to market right now is actually, this time has changed us, and it's changed a lot of people's outlook on the world and their life and what they're doing. And so becoming a coach may be something that they have always thought about, but they didn't think it was appropriate, or they didn't have time or space. And so I think marketing to those professions who maybe you haven't normally might be a good time to people who require face-to-face, require hands-on massage therapists. You'll get, like, how many of us have seen all of these things try and go virtual? I certainly have, yoga studios, things like that. So people who are relying on face-to-face and maybe having second thoughts about the wisdom of that in their life, in a world where community spread is a thing. So something else. So Vikram, you were saying.
No, I was just going to invite Saima to share a little more about what she's written here, if that's relevant. That's an interesting way of marketing, so yeah.
Sure. Hello, everyone. And this was following our board call earlier in the week at the ICF Foundation. And if I may, and Hallie, by the way, I know this isn't going to make sense to the physicality of therapy that is necessary and needed. I want to address two things. And before I do that, I just want to say this. It was around the holiday time in December that I sat down and wondered what my life would be like at work if I didn't travel so much.
Yeah.
So this is your
So yeah, I might have something to do with this, but not all of it. All of it. So there's two things that struck us as we were having a conversation at the ICF Foundation, and I know I'm speaking into folks who are genuinely in need of money right now. We're designed to connect. We're designed to belong with each other. We're designed, as you know, one or two of you are asking, Eileen, I know you were asking earlier on, to be in person. I've been teaching virtually online as well as in person for several years. And it has only just been in these last 4 weeks of lockdown that I have understood creating presence virtually. And that's obviously through having made mistakes. But just through these 4 weeks, I have now, I don't believe I've mastered it, but I have learned how to hold coaching presence in this week. And so as I felt it, I felt quite impacted by being able to do that, because suddenly what I felt I could be potentially doing is saying goodbye to the travel and the in-person. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, please believe that we can have that sense of connection virtually and in how we connect. And Vikram, that first question, if I may address that you popped up earlier on, the consequence of how we market now, when there is an abundance of free, let me just throw it at you so I can, I think what we're finding ourselves in is a place of folks who are service providers being caught in presenteeism, letting us know, letting our virtual, our communities, our alumni know that we're still here and we're still active and working. So there is a sense of presenteeism. They're constantly bombarding us with this is free and this is free.
Yes.
I want for us, and I know I'm speaking with my foundation hat on, I want for us to believe in an abundance of work. That there is going to be an abundance of work. And we might not be the first responders. I get that. We are definitely not the folks who are going to be running out there with our PPE and supporting people.
Sure.
I think we are going to be the second wave, second responders. So there's almost a sense of hang in there, have faith or have a sense of knowing that this is going to be even more valuable as a conversation than it has ever been before. And only through that do I have sanity over this period of time. And I have folks who are asking, okay, shall we just do another one next week? I'm like, no, I am not transposing my flying from here to there to, as Julian was just saying, 8:30 to 10:30 throughout the whole day, holding Zooms for alumni and holding Zoom for chapters around the world. I truly feel, and this is our 5th week, I think we're probably going to be 8 weeks into this before there's any sense of an exit strategy. In fact, let me stop there. I've said enough.
No, love your point, Seema. And the presence that you're bringing in, right? It's bringing stability to me right now. So I've had such a stretchful day. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate.
And speak of the proverbial double, Terry, meet Veronique Pigeon. She was talking about knowing who the author of that visual is that you were looking for. Terry Malpia, Veronique Pigeon, you are now connected you, Veronica, have a piece of information that Terry is looking for.
I sent an email to you, Ali, earlier. So you've
awesome.
got it in your
I will forward
mailbox.
it to Terry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whoever wants it, for sure.
Thank you so much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
looking forward to that that source, because I've been getting lots of people telling me different people was the source, so it's fascinating. But anyway,
And
thank
the
you.
author of this visual is actually a doctor specialized in diabetes.
Yes, so I do know who it is. He sent me his book.
Oh, okay.
Same the 11 principles or 11 laws or something.
Yes,
yeah, he just sent me his book.
Yes.
Yep. I've been in touch with him, so you've
Okay.
now verified what I had heard.
Excellent. Well, it's now 9:04 where I am, 4 minutes after the top of the hour. And so I want to thank everybody for being here and being in this space and contributing your ideas and your questions and sources. So thank you so much for being here. And I took lots of notes. So go
and there
ahead.
is a request, sorry, Hallie, there's a request for sharing the chat flow. So
Sure.
we will also do that for those of us who are on the call. So it's all there. So.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you very much, Kevin Cashman. Blah, blah, blah. Awesome. Yes. Stay strong. You can do it. We're definitely needed right now.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Nice seeing your faces.
Briefly.
That's all I could do. I was in another meeting, but I just wanted to stop by and say hi.
Hi.
So good to have you here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you all.